represented Sean off and on for many years, and my daughter is still the lead lawyer for Diddy. So, from a father's perspective, I don't think it makes one whit of difference, frankly. Diddy knows what he's doing. I don't think that Tony was a lead lawyer in the case. Mark Agnifilo is the lead lawyer, who's very accomplished. I understand that anything Diddy related tends to get a lot of clicks, but this, to me, is no more than just a speed bump.
So we shouldn't be reading into it anything more sinister, because it does seem unusual for, in such a high-profile case, for one of the team to publicly resign like this.
You're right. I don't think that, in fact, I would venture to say that there's nothing to be read into it other than what often happens with these cases. You know, I was thinking back many years ago to Michael Jackson after I saw this, and there were lawyer changes and shuffling of the deck. It happens often in high-profile cases. I mean, there's always going to be some lawyers coming and going, inevitably. I've seen it in every single case I've ever handled. I will tell you that I don't think it means much of anything at all in this case. Sean is, by all accounts, ready, willing, and able to go on May 5th, and I expect that you and I will be back talking about it.
What is your overview of where he is in terms of criminal liability here, in terms of what may happen to him and the weight of the case? Because we know that when the feds come for somebody, they normally have a very good success rate.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely true. I tell clients when they come into my office, you know, the federal conviction rate is in the high 90s. So understand there aren't that many lawyers walking around who've heard the words "not guilty" in a federal courtroom. So I've been fortunate to have that, as has my daughter and both Mark Agnifilo. I will tell you, this is my take on this case. This case has been the media has so run with this idea that we have A-list celebrities, that we've got sex tapes. The tapes are about to drop. The sex tapes are involved, whether it's, and I don't even want to kind of push forward the kind of crazy narratives out there, but I remember watching a TV show, Pierce, back in September, where a woman said, a lawyer said, that there were shopping tapes around and that this tape involved a A-list celebrity and blah, blah, blah. Everything that has happened since then, every public filing in that case has led me to one conclusion and one conclusion only, that these are private tapes involving just one or two other females and another willing participant. There's, as far as I can tell, there are no tapes that involve so-called A-list celebrities. In fact, there's nobody else on these tapes except two other consenting adults. They weren't done surreptitiously. They weren't done covertly. And basically, the government's case comes down to, did victim, you know, as you know, they just superseded, added two victims, but it appears that it's just three, if you believe the defense, three ex-girlfriends. And that has morphed into now saying Bad Boy Records has been a criminal sex trafficking enterprise, the likes of which is Abercrombie and Fitch. I don't see it. I haven't seen anything that gives me any indication that that is the case.
Matthew, I saw you nodding there.
Yes.
You were a criminal trial consultant and a defense attorney for 25 years. You've represented, like I said, Suge Knight. With over 100 jury trials you were involved in, including a lot of murder cases, you secured a lot of not guilty verdicts. Now, you said an interesting thing. You said that you're no fan of Diddy, but you still think this case might not be a very strong one. Explain that.
I agree with Mark 1,000,000%. This is a joke. This case is blown up into something that from nothing. When you have, first of all, a number 5 or 6 lawyer getting off a case means nothing. He's mad he didn't get enough camera time. He's mad he thinks he wants more money. It means nothing about the case. In all likelihood, he wasn't even particularly privy to all the comings and goings that were going on with the case. I'd be very surprised. Mark Garagos doesn't sit down and have conversations with 4 and 5 lawyers at the bottom. And it's not nothing intentional. It's just the practical reality. In Sean and Combs' cases, this guy is a unique individual, but he's not dumb. He's arrogant, he's obnoxious, he's a lot of things, but there's a lot of things that a lot of people in the music industry are. But he's not dumb. And he has an inherent, every time I've ever met him, I thought he had an inherent quality of fear. You know, he was afraid of doing anything for himself, afraid of going to jail, which I understand, I get it. But this is the case where here's a crazy thought. There are some people in Hollywood who have different sex lives than people in mid-America. There's, like Marcus referred to, I've talked to people about these videos multiple occasions. No one's told me that there's ever any, one, there's no baby oil. Two, there's no children. Three, there's no force, no coercion, no duress. These are commercial sex workers. He's a voyeur. He liked to watches his significant others have sex. There's just almost nothing to this case. You have a very ambitious AUSA who doesn't have a lot of experience trying cases. AUSAs in general, they try serious cases, and never get me wrong, they don't do a lot of trials. And when you do a lot of trials, you know what's a strong case, you know what's a weak case, you can sense, you can figure out. This is.
You say it's nothing, but I would argue that what do we know that's already in the public domain that gives an insight into what he's actually like, Diddy? And I would point to that horrific video in the hotel corridor where he beats up his girlfriend at the time, really appallingly. And he does that with impunity. Yeah. Not seeming to care that there may be CCTV footage. That showed a guy who's capable of horrific violence against his own girlfriend. And at that point, you know, my thinking about all the allegations was, well, yeah, I reckon he's probably capable of pretty much anything. Any man that could do that to a woman in a hotel corridor is not a nice person. And they're perfectly capable of criminal acts, because that was one of them.
And he should be charged with being not a nice person. He should be charged. He should be charged with domestic violence. He should be charged with battery. He should be charged with anything. He arguably could be charged with assault with a deadly weapon, hands or feet. And it has nothing to do with sex trafficking. It has nothing to do with the White Slave Trade Act. It has nothing to do with human trafficking. Those are the charging Diddy with those in the historical context is almost laughable. This takes wokeism to a new level in the law. The Mann Act and the White Slave Trade Act was not designed to be applied to a movie producer, a movie director, a recording artist bringing in someone to have sex with his wife or his girlfriend while he watched. He beat her like a dog, and he should go to prison for that. Unfortunately, he was never charged, and the same people in New York who want to charge everyone else, or L.A., didn't charge him for a simple corporal punishment to a spouse or cohabitant. That's what it is, but two things can be true at the same time. That is a crime, without doubt. It is not sex trafficking, without a doubt. It is an abuse of a woman, without a doubt. It is cowardly. It is uncool. It is all of those things. It is not sex trafficking by any stretch of the imagination. You can never find.
Okay, no, I hear you. Let me bring in Brandon Tatum. You're listening patiently to this. So it's all wokeism.
Well, I think you have a perspective from lawyers, which I understand why they would have a very methodical perspective of what is the law, what does the evidence show. But then you also have the reality of it. P. Diddy and some of these other dudes are gangsters. They literally have people in fear. I honestly believe if anybody were to turn on them, trade on them, lie on them, you could get killed in the streets. So they have this gangster lifestyle that's more real than what can be presented in the court of law. And I guarantee you there may be a lot more evidence and people who would be forthcoming, but they don't want to end up getting killed. You know, Suge Knight was a gangster. Snoop Dogg was a gangster. All of these rappers they live a very hard life, and they got people around them that'll do dirty business if they have to get to it. So I do understand that as a former law enforcement officer, you can only go with what the evidence shows, and you can only go with what can be presented in the court of law, what's admissible in the court of law. However, on the other flip side of it, people get away with stuff all the time because they know how to move and shake. P. Diddy is not dumb. He's savvy. He got money. He got influence. He got lawyers. They're going to get him in the best position humanly possible, but that does not mean that he's not potentially responsible for these things. And it was evident with him beating up Cassidy and probably beating up other women like that, that this dude he's very capable of doing all the things he's accused of.
Yeah, I mean, Lord Jamar, we've talked a lot about this case since it first blew up. I've got to say, it's the first time I've had people be quite so defensive, is probably the wrong word, but so kind of prepared to say this might be massively overblown. And they both happen to be top criminal lawyers, which is significant, I think.
Well, again, as lawyers, I understand their perspective. And I agree that on a lot of cases, lawyers do get fired and all of that type of stuff. The thing that was telling to me by this particular lawyer's resignation is when he stated, by no circumstances can I work on the case. That little caveat right there made me feel like he may have been, privy to some sort of information that made him say, you know what, I cannot defend a monster like this. I don't know. I'm just saying that's a possibility. It could be just a regular changing of the guard, like these gentlemen said. But when I first heard it, and when he said that particular, under no circumstances, it just made me think, well, why did he feel that? Did he have some sort of, conscious, thing of change of heart, once finding something out? I don't know. I think it's worth asking, though.
It is. And
my response to that would be, I get it, because that's, obviously you hear that and you say, oh, he must have discovered something. If that was the case, and I don't see anything to support that. If that was the case, the last thing the lawyer can do is what was done. You can't suggest, you've got a duty to your ex-client. Your duty to your ex-client survives even after death. So even if you want off the case, you can't disparage or suggest or do anything. So I think I get the reaction. I hear you, and that was that makes sense. But I can tell you that no self-respecting lawyer is going to get off a case because he says, I can't deal with the evidence. I've defended cases. Matt has defended cases where the clients, you may not want to bring the clients home for Thanksgiving dinner, but that's no justification for suggesting, and I don't think that that was done here, that you saw something in the evidence and that's why you're here.
American homeowners are at risk of a growing real estate scam, which the FBI calls house stealing. This is how it works. Criminals forge your signature on just one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee, and then file it with your local recorder's office. Just like that, your home title is transferred out of your name. Scammers can then take out loans using your equity as collateral, or even sell the property behind your back. You won't even know it's happening until you start getting collection or foreclosure notices. When was the last time you checked your home title? I own a home in the United States, and the answer for me is never until now. That's why I trust Home Title Lock. Their $1 million triple lock protection helps keep your home and equity safe. Here's what you get: immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property, urgent alerts if there are any changes, and if fraud does happen, their US-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title at no additional cost. I've teamed up with Home Title Lock to give you a free title history report so you can find out if you're already a victim and get access to your personal title expert, a $250 value just for signing up. Go to HometitleLock.com and use the promo code PEERS, or just click on the link in the description. Make sure you check out the $1 million triple lock protection details when you get there. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code PEERS, P-I-E-R-S, to get the protection and peace of mind that you deserve. Do you think he's going to walk, Mark?
Do I? Look, all I know is what I have been seen and I keep reading in the public filings. The public filings are, and unfortunately in this case, nobody seems to pay attention to them because the public filings, the defense keeps suggesting that there's only 3 people here. All 3 were ex-girlfriends, that there was no trafficking. The latest one that Matt just referred to was a challenge to the Mann Act. And the challenge to the Mann Act is they actually had to change the name of the act that they're charging him with years ago from the White Slavery Act to the Mann Act. The defense says no black man has ever been charged in this particular circumstance until Diddy. Are you telling me in the history of our country, Diddy's the first guy who gets charged with an act that's been around for God knows how long, number one? Number two, are you also telling me that it's 3 ex-girlfriends and that this guy, and I don't necessarily disagree that that rappers have unsavory reputations, but you can't, to Matt's point and to Tate's point, you can't convict somebody. We have specific code sections in the criminal law, 404 in federal. You don't just do a character assassination and then convict the person. You don't convict them because they're bad people. You don't convict them because I don't like them because they live a thug lifestyle, which, by the way, I didn't even know I was able to use thug anymore. I thought that was, speaking of wokeism, I thought thug was taken off the table. But the fact is, we do not convict people in America based on them being bad actors. We convict them based on bad acts. That was Cassie's involvement in that hotel hallway, a bad act? Absolutely. But as Matt says, the statute ran on that.
Okay, let's just pivot.
And the other thing about this, real quick, on this issue that the lawyer says, it's a term of art. It's like in law when you say we've had irreconcilable differences in a divorce. People say, well, that must mean he beat her. That must mean she beat him or was cheating. It doesn't mean it's a term of art. This lawyer has to make specific showings to the federal judge to be allowed off the case. And one of the ways you do that is that we've broken up and we can't get back together. And all he was saying is we've broken up and we can't get back together. In court, we often call it, we're waiting for Mr. Green to arrive or Mr. Cash hasn't arrived. Everyone understands what the term of art